I've worked in bars long enough to know when a night is about to go wrong. There's a moment, usually quiet, where the energy shifts. The music still plays, the lights still flash, the bodies still move, but the air goes rigid, like it's holding its breath. Tonight, that moment walked in through the front door, wearing a tailored charcoal suit and a diamond-studded wristwatch. Adrian Cole. Even his name sounded expensive. People whispered it the way religious people whisper God's name when they're scared. Some called him a businessman. Some said he controlled half the city's ports. Others swore he'd ordered executions from the back seat of a black Mercedes like he was choosing wine. Me, I'd only seen him 3 times around the club, never close, never for more than a minute. He moved like a man who knew gravity loved him too much to let him fall. Tonight he came to my bar. I didn't notice him at first. I was busy aligning cocktail glasses, wiping counter rings, dealing with tourists shouting for overpriced mojitos. But then the room shifted. Not louder, not quieter, just different, like every sound bent slightly around him. I didn't look up until he was already standing in front of me, hands in pockets, scent clean and expensive, cedarwood, warm spice, something that made my heart thump once too hard. He was taller than I expected, broader, jaw sharp enough to cut the light, eyes dark, unreadable, like he kept storms behind them. I swallowed, suddenly aware I hadn't shaved properly, or ironed my shirt, or taken a proper breath in 10 seconds. "Whiskey, neat," he said, voice smooth, deep, unhurried, a man who knew no one would ever rush him. I nodded as if my hands weren't trembling inside, as if I didn't feel him watching me, as if I wasn't terrified of messing up the simplest drink on the menu. I poured. He didn't look away, not once. And that should have been the strangest thing about the moment, but it wasn't. What was strange was that behind him, at a table near the back, 2 men had been staring at him for 20 minutes, staring the way hunters stare at prey. Even without seeing their faces, I felt it, predatory energy. Too still, too focused. Something in my stomach twisted. I don't know what possessed me. No one warns a man like Adrian Cole. If you're smart, you stay quiet, keep your head down, mind your job. But I leaned closer to him, just slightly, just enough, and whispered the 4 words that would change my life. "Don't turn around." He froze. Not dramatically, not like in movies, but in the smallest, most terrifying way possible, like his entire body became a single tense breath. He didn't turn his head, didn't blink, didn't even lift his glass, just stilled, like he had suddenly become made of iron. Slowly, barely moving, he lowered his hand from the counter. "What did you just say?" he asked. Very quietly, I kept my face down, pretending to wipe a glass. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "You heard me." He didn't like that. I knew it instantly. Men with power hate when you don't tremble properly. "Look at me," he said. I shook my head. "Not now, not yet." A beat of silence stretched thin and sharp between us. "You're giving orders," he murmured. "I'm trying to keep you alive," I replied. There, I'd said it. The truth, hanging stupidly between us. He exhaled through his nose. A sound almost like a laugh, but not amused. "Dangerous, interested, confused. What do you think you've seen?" he asked. "The 2 men at table 9, I said softly. "They walked in after you. Haven't touched their drinks. Haven't looked at anything except your back." His jaw flexed, the only sign he'd heard me. "And," he whispered, "and one of them has something in his jacket that is definitely not a phone." Another silence. He didn't ask how I noticed. Men like him assume you're either lying or useful. And I guess for the first time in my life I was the second. His voice dropped to a tone so low I barely heard it over the music. "Why warn me?" My fingers tightened around the towel in my hand. I should have had an answer ready. Something clever, detached, safe. But instead the truth came out raw, unedited. "I don't know. I just didn't want to see you die." He didn't move. But something in the air shifted, something subtle, something intimate. He leaned forward, slow, deliberate, close enough that I felt the warmth of his breath near my ear. "You don't even know me," he said. I swallowed. "I've seen enough." His lips didn't touch me, but the heat of him did, and it felt like a warning and a promise all at once. "You're too bold for your own good," he whispered. "Men die for far less than telling me what to do." But there was no real threat in his voice, just curiosity, dangerous curiosity. He straightened, adjusting his sleeves, calm again, composed, lethal. "Stay behind the counter," he said. "Don't move unless I tell you to." Then he casually picked up his whiskey, turned, and the world cracked open. A gun glinted under table light. Someone shouted. Someone tipped a chair. And the first gunshot tore through the music like thunder. Glass shattered behind me. People screamed. Bodies rushed for the exit in a tidal wave of panic, but all I could see was him, Adrian, moving through chaos with terrifying precision. Like violence was a language he spoke fluently. I should have ducked, should have run, should have hidden under the counter, but I stood frozen, heart hammering for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. Because somewhere inside the smoke, and screaming, and broken glass, his eyes found mine, not angry, not scared, just locked, like he was making sure I was still alive, like I mattered, like he'd kill the whole room if anyone touched me. That was the moment I knew. My life was no longer mine. It belonged to the man who should have terrified me but didn't, the man I warned in a whisper, the man who listened, the man who would change everything. Adrian Cole. People always talk about bullet sounds. Like they know what they're saying. They don't. Movies lie. Gunshots don't echo or boom, not in small spaces. They punch the air. Sharp, flat, wrong. After the first one tore through the room, the club dissolved into chaos. Bottles smashing, chairs scraping, heels breaking, men shouting, women crying, lights strobing like a heartbeat losing rhythm. But I didn't move. Not out of bravery. Fear pinned me to the floor, harder than any bullet could. I crouched behind the counter, breath stuck in my throat, praying the way my grandmother taught me when I was small. God, hold my life in your hand until the danger passes. If you can't hold it, at least don't drop it. People ran, glass rained, bodies collided, phones hit the ground, someone's wig flew past my ear like a terrified bird, and Adrian Cole, was no longer a man drinking whiskey. He was a storm walking on two legs. A table flipped, a chair cracked, someone screamed. I couldn't see clearly, only glimpses between people. His shoulder twisting, his suit jacket flashing silver at the lining, his hand moving fast, precise, controlled. He wasn't running, he wasn't hiding, he wasn't panicking, he was closing the distance, a fury with a heartbeat. Then, silence, sudden, absolute silence, the kind of silence that feels like God pressed pause. Someone groaned, someone whimpered, and then his voice rose through the dust and panic. Everyone out, now. He didn't shout, he didn't have to. Men twice his size scrambled over each other. A hand grabbed my shoulder, my coworker Elijah shaking me, shouting something I couldn't hear, but I didn't move. My eyes were on Adrian. He stood near the doorway, chest rising slowly, one hand clutching his side like he'd taken a hit. His shirt was torn. Blood stained the white fabric, a deep, dangerous red. My panic sharpened into something I couldn't name. Elijah tugged again. Let's go. And I did the stupidest thing possible. I pushed his hand off me. My feet moved toward the wounded Mafia boss, like they had their own mind. I didn't think about bullets, or my job, or my life. I just walked to him. The club emptied around us like water draining from a basin. He looked up at the sound of my steps. Those dark eyes locked on mine, and something inside me felt claimed in a way nothing in my life had ever claimed me. You're hurt, I whispered. He studied me, not like he was checking if I was safe, but like he was trying to decode me. You're still here, he said. Not a question, just a statement, heavy, electric. I swallowed. I couldn't leave. A beat. Something flickered in his eyes. Not softness, not gratitude. Recognition, like something in my stupid little act made sense to him, in a way I didn't understand yet. Come here, he said. It wasn't a command. It wasn't gentle. It was something in between. I stopped a few feet from him, but he shook his head, jaw tightening. Closer. I took one more step. Closer. Another step. He reached out, slow, hesitant, and brushed a thumb under my jaw. Barely a touch, just skin against skin. You shouldn't have warned me, he murmured. You shouldn't have stayed. I wanted to say you're bleeding, or anyone would have done the same, or I didn't know what else to do, but something else came out. I didn't want you to be alone. He blinked, once. A crack in an armor no one had ever cracked. His hand dropped from my jaw. He swallowed hard, looking away for the first time since the gunshots. Then, quietly, come with me. My chest tightened. Where? He didn't answer with words. He turned, pushed open the back door of the club, and walked out into the alley, limping slightly, hiding it under that strong facade. I hesitated only a second before following him. The alley was damp, lit by one flickering bulb. The distant noise of sirens curled through the air. Adrian slumped against the wall for a heartbeat, one heartbeat, then straightened again, as if the world wasn't crushing him with pain. You're bleeding, I said. He raised an eyebrow. Didn't realize. He was joking. Bleeding, bruised, still warm with adrenaline, and he was joking. No police. So what then? His eyes met mine, intense, searching, vulnerable under all the steel. I need you to help me. Me, a bartender making minimum wage, living in a room so small I could touch both walls if I stretched my arms. You don't even know me, I said. He stepped closer, so close I felt his body heat through my thin shirt. No, he murmured, but you told me not to turn around. His hand trembled, just barely, like he was holding back something dangerous. And I listened, a pause, and that has never happened before. I stared at him, at the line of his jaw, at the blood slowly seeping through his shirt, at the exhaustion in his eyes that looked older than he was. What do you want from me? I asked softly. He exhaled, shaky, human, unsteady in a way that made my heart twist. He stopped, closed his eyes, opened them again, darker. I want you to keep me alive tonight. The alley was so quiet I could hear a bottle roll somewhere far away. He leaned forward, just a little, voice low, strained. Please. That did it. That one word, from a man who probably hadn't said please since the day he was born. I stepped closer until our chests almost touched. Okay, I whispered. Tell me what to do. His shoulders dropped, just enough to reveal the weight he carried, just enough to show he wasn't made of iron after all. And then he whispered something that made my breath stop, my heart stutter, and my fate shift permanently toward him. Take me somewhere no one will find us. The problem with doing something irreversible is you don't feel it at first. You think you're just making a decision, just moving your feet, just helping a man who asked you to save his life. But by the time we stepped out of the alley, weaving through shadows and broken streetlights, I already knew the truth. I wasn't helping Adrian. I was crossing a line I could never go back from. The night felt too quiet, too expectant, as if the city knew something was happening, something it wanted to watch. I kept glancing at him as we walked. He moved stiffly, but refused to show weakness. His shirt clung to his body, soaked with blood in one patch. The rest of him looked untouched, like he could physically control where pain was allowed to exist. Where are we going? He asked, his voice deceptively calm. My place, I said. He shot me a look, not judgmental, just curious. A man used to assessing exits and weaknesses, not people. It's small, I added. I don't need space, he murmured. Just walls. We crossed a railway line, past a fruit stand that smelled of mangoes and dust, moved past 3 boys leaning on a boda arguing about football. They didn't look at us. No one did. We blended into the night like 2 shadows that didn't make sense together. When we reached my building, if you could call it that, he paused, studying it. It was 4 floors of concrete and old paint, balconies patched with rusted iron bars, laundry swaying like flags. He didn't say a word, but I saw it in his eyes. He wasn't used to walking into anyone else's world. People always came to his. I led him up a narrow staircase that smelled of incense and boiled cabbage. He followed silently, only his breath giving away the pain. My door creaked when I pushed it open. It always did, and the room greeted him with the only things I owned. A single bed, a small fridge, a kettle that sometimes sparked, one window showing the city lights like scattered fireflies. It wasn't much, it was barely anything, but it was mine. He stepped inside, and for the first time since I'd met him, Adrian Cole looked unsure. This is where you live? He asked quietly. Yeah. He exhaled a strange, soft sound, not pity, not condescension, something more like understanding. I flicked on the lamp. Warm light filled the room, painting gold across his jaw, his shoulders, the blood on his shirt. Then the adrenaline finally left him. He staggered. I caught him without thinking, arms wrapping around his waist. His weight hit me like warm stone, heavy and real. His body pressed against mine for barely a second, one tiny stupid second, but it changed something between us. A hitch in his breath, a tremor in mine. I helped him sit on the bed. He didn't let go of my wrist until he absolutely had to. Take off your jacket, I said. He raised an eyebrow, a faint smirk tugging at his mouth. You usually say that to men you barely know, only the ones bleeding on my floor. The smirk faded, replaced by something gentler, a softness so subtle I almost missed it. He slipped off his jacket with silent effort. Underneath, his white shirt clung to him, soaked with a deep red bloom on his left side. Lift your shirt, I said. He didn't tease. Didn't hesitate. He obeyed, and I froze. Not because he was beautiful. He was. Not because his body looked like strength carved in human form. It did. But because the wound wasn't what I expected. It wasn't a bullet wound. It was a slice. Clean, deep, deliberate. This wasn't from the gunfight, I said. He didn't answer. Someone cut you. Who? He looked up at me with those dark, unreadable eyes. Someone who shouldn't have been close enough to try. Something cold touched the back of my neck. An inside job. A betrayal. Someone in his circle. He winced as I dabbed the blood with a towel, his breath catching, not dramatically, not for effect, just real, human pain. It tightened my chest more than it should have. You're good at this, he murmured. I've lived alone since 17, I said. You learn to fix your own wounds. He studied me while I worked. Really studied me, like he'd been blind earlier and suddenly discovered hands could see. What? I asked. You're calm, he said. I'm not. You look calm. I'm not. He smiled. Small, brief, dangerous. I liked that you try to hide it. I didn't respond. Didn't trust my voice. As I cleaned the cut, his hand brushed my thigh. Barely. Just a shift for balance. But the air between us snapped tight. His eyes flicked down to where our bodies almost touched. Then up to mine. Something unspoken passed between us. Not lust. Not sex. Recognition. He swallowed. So quietly I almost didn't hear. What did you mean? He asked softly. When you said you didn't want me to be alone. I froze. His voice was too close. Too raw. I didn't mean anything. I lied. Try again. He leaned forward slightly. Not enough to touch, but enough to make my heartbeat feel like a drum in my throat. Tell me. I breathed out. I saw something in your eyes, I whispered. He blinked once. Slow. Intense. And what was that? A man who hasn't been safe in a long time. The room didn't move. The world didn't breathe. His jaw tightened. Not in anger. In vulnerability. A dangerous kind. You're not wrong, he said quietly. I swallowed. My hand steadied the towel on his skin. He kept his eyes on mine. And you? He asked. When was the last time you felt safe? My mouth opened, then closed. I didn't know. I couldn't remember. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy with things neither of us had language for. Then he said, almost under his breath, stay close tonight, please. For a second I forgot the world outside the small room, forgot the danger, forgot the blood staining my hands. All I knew was this. He wasn't asking because he needed a bandage. He was asking because he needed someone he trusted. Someone he didn't want to lose in the dark. I sat on the bed beside him, carefully, close, breath touching breath. He didn't move away, didn't pretend he didn't need the closeness. We stayed like that, silent, warm, suspended in something we didn't understand yet. Then my phone buzzed, a single message, from an unknown number. He's not safe with you. My blood turned cold. Adrian's eyes flicked to the screen, then to me. He didn't look confused. He looked, who has your number? He asked. I don't know. He stood, ignoring the pain, towering over me, with a new terrifying calm. Someone followed us here, he said. Someone good. He walked to the window, staring out into the night, like he could see through every shadow in the city. Lock the door, he whispered, and don't let me fall asleep. Why? He turned slowly, eyes burning with a truth he hadn't told me yet. Because if I sleep, he said, someone will come for me, and I need you awake to hear it first. The city outside hummed, a generator throbbed, a dog barked far away, and I realized, with a sudden frightening clarity, I was no longer just a bartender helping a wounded man. I had become the only witness to a war I didn't understand, and the only thing standing between Adrian Cole and death was me. The door clicked shut behind us with a softness that scared me more than a scream ever could. There's something unsettling about quiet when danger is close. It feels unnatural, like a storm holding its breath. Adrian stood at the window, one hand braced against the wall, the other hanging loose at his side. In the dim lamplight, he looked less like a man and more like a warning carved into flesh. Blood stained the bandage I'd just tied around his waist. He didn't look at it. He didn't look at me. He looked at the night as if he expected it to answer back. I locked the door like he told me to. The click echoed through my tiny room. He didn't turn. Adrian, I whispered. Nothing. Who could have followed us? Still nothing. Just his slow breathing. The rise and fall of a man holding himself together by will alone. I stepped closer, not daring to touch him, but close enough to smell the faint cedar scent on his clothes. It mixed with the sharp burn of adrenaline and something warmer beneath it. Finally, he spoke, very quietly. You should have let me bleed out in that club. I blinked. Why would you say that? He turned then, slowly, like his body was made of heavy decisions. Because in that moment, in the flicker of lamplight, I didn't see the Mafia boss the city whispered about. I saw a man fighting a war without an army. There are people out there, he murmured, who will kill you just for breathing the same air as me. I'm not afraid. He inhaled, small, sharp, almost pained, not from the wound, from disbelief. You should be. I shook my head. I'm here by choice. He stared at me then, really stared, as if he were trying to figure out whether I was naive, stupid, or the first person in years who wasn't using him. His voice softened, barely audible. Why? That question again. Always that question. I opened my mouth but no answer came out. Not the truth anyway. The truth was messy. The truth was dangerous. The truth was something neither of us was ready to name. That message, I said instead. The one that said you're not safe with me. Who could have sent it? He walked past me, carefully, slowly, like each step was a negotiation with pain. He stopped at the table beside my bed and picked up the glass of water I'd left there earlier, but he didn't drink. Someone with reach, he said. Someone who knows how I move. Someone who knows you. Knows me. I frowned. No one knows me. You're wrong, he murmured. Someone has been watching you. For a while, my stomach dropped. Watching me. He nodded. Before tonight, before the club, something about you didn't add up. Someone marked you long before I walked into your bar. I felt cold, like the room suddenly lost its walls. But why me? I'm just a bartender. He looked at me with a gentleness so unexpected I almost stepped back. No, he said softly, you're not. His eyes tracked my face, lingering on my jaw, my mouth, my collarbone. Not in a hungry way, but in a way that felt searching. You see things, he said. You notice details. You look at people deeper than they want you to. I swallowed, throat tightening. You saw danger behind me when no one else did. You told me not to turn around without thinking. That instinct, it isn't normal. He stepped closer. Just one step, but it felt like he crossed a line between us. People like you, he said, voice low, don't stay invisible forever. Someone noticed. A shiver crawled across my skin. Adrian, I whispered. What are you saying? He ran a hand through his dark hair. The first time I'd seen him show real frustration. I'm saying, he stopped, sighed, looked at me. I'm saying that whoever is after me now might be after you too. I stared at him, at the tension in his shoulders, at the way he kept adjusting his stance like he was trying to stand between me and the entire world. A strange warmth spread in my chest, fear and something else tangled together. Adrian, I said carefully, if you think I'm in danger, you can leave. You don't have to stay here. His jaw clenched so sharply it looked painful. Don't say that. I blinked. Why not? He took another step toward me. Because, he said, voice rough, I know what happens when I walk away from someone. They die. The rawness in his voice punched the breath out of me. Not dramatic, not exaggerated, real, quiet, broken. He stopped when he was right in front of me, close enough that I could feel his warmth, smell the faint metallic scent of blood beneath the cologne. His eyes held mine, steady, unflinching. I'm not losing the one person who warned me tonight, he whispered. Not you. My heart slammed against my ribs. Something pressed in the air between us. Something sharp, breathless, electric. Not romance, not lust. Recognition. Like two people standing on the edge of something neither of us could name. He raised a hand, slowly, like he was afraid of spooking me, and his fingers brushed my cheek. Barely a touch, barely pressure, but it felt like a brand. Tell me your name, he murmured. My breath caught. He didn't know? All this time. My voice cracked. I steadied it. Evan. He inhaled like he'd been holding his breath for hours. Evan, he repeated, tasting it, grounding himself in it. Then his expression shifted, just slightly, and his eyebrows drew together in confusion. Someone said your name before, he whispered. His hand dropped, his eyes hardened. That message. It wasn't a warning to me. My pulse hammered. It was a warning to you. Before I could speak, he gently grabbed my wrist, firm, protective, not painful. Evan, he said quietly, urgently, whoever sent that message wasn't threatening me. His eyes locked on mine. They were threatening you. The room seemed to shrink. The walls leaned in. The shadows grew teeth. I need you to listen to me, he said. Whoever followed us didn't want me dead. He stepped closer. So close I felt his breath on my skin. They wanted to see who I cared about. A chill raced through me. But my voice faltered. I'm nobody to you. His eyes flicked away. Just for a second, a tiny break in armor. Maybe you were, he whispered, but not anymore. The world outside my window hummed with traffic and distant music and heat, but inside my room, everything narrowed to the space between us. He reached out again, slower this time, like he was afraid of hurting something fragile. His hand hovered at my jaw. Evan, he murmured, I need you to trust me. Stay awake, stay close. And don't open that door for anything, not even if you hear my voice. I swallowed hard. Why not? His answer chilled my blood, because if they got to you once, they can mimic voices. The lamp flickered. A chill swept the room, and then, from behind the door, a soft knock. 3 taps, slow, deliberate. My phone buzzed again. Open the door, Evan. It's Adrian. Adrian grabbed my hand instantly, eyes blazing. That's not me, he whispered. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. Not because of the knock, not because of the message, but because of Adrian's face. I'd seen him angry, I'd seen him calculating, I'd seen him hurt, but I had never seen him afraid. Don't move, he whispered. He didn't shout, didn't raise a hand, didn't grab me. He just stood in front of me, wounded and unsteady, like a man bracing himself between me and the whole world. The door knock came again. 3 slow taps, precise, calm, unhurried, like whoever stood outside wasn't just confident, they were invited. Adrian's grip tightened around my wrist. That's not me, he said again, quieter this time. Almost ashamed he had to repeat it. I swallowed, my pulse thundering in my throat. Who can mimic voices, I asked. His jaw locked. That's what I'm trying to figure out. My phone buzzed again. Evan, open the door, I don't want to be out here. My skin crawled. The voice in the text wasn't written, but when I read it, I heard Adrian's voice in my head, the exact tone he'd used minutes ago. Calm, protective, warm. Too perfect. Evan, the voice beyond the door called softly. Adrian's voice. I flinched. The real Adrian stepped in front of me, his body angled like a shield. Don't answer, he whispered. Another knock. Not harder, but closer, like the person leaned their forehead on the door while knocking. Evan, the voice repeated. Let me in, you know me. My breath hitched. The real Adrian turned his head slightly, eyes narrowing as he listened. That's not a recording, he murmured. Whoever that is, they're doing it in real time. I shivered. How? He didn't answer. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he did, and hated the answer. He moved closer to the door, silent as a shadow, placing his fingertips against the wood. The door flexed slightly, like someone pressed their weight on the other side. Adrian leaned in, listening. The knock stopped. Silence swept over us like a held breath. Then, a whisper, soft enough that I almost thought it came from inside my head. But why are you hiding behind him? Adrian's eyes widened. I stiffened. The voice outside clicked its tongue. You shouldn't hide behind him, Evan. He won't protect you. He can't. Not from me. My stomach dropped. Adrian's face changed. Not anger, not fear, but a kind of cold clarity, as if a puzzle piece finally slid into place. He stepped backward, pulling me with him. Stay away from the door, he said. Now, Adrian, do not argue. The authority in his voice made me move. He guided me across the room, his hand on the back of my neck, gentle, firm, reassuring in a way that shouldn't have felt intimate, but did. When we reached the far wall, he positioned himself in front of me again, pain etched around his mouth but his posture unwavering. Listen to me, he whispered. Someone is setting a trap. They want you to open that door, just once. A crack. An inch. Why? He hesitated, and that hesitation terrified me more than anything. Because, he said slowly, they don't need to come inside. They just need to see you. My skin prickled. See me? For what? His voice lowered even further. For confirmation, I swallowed. Confirmation of what? He looked at me, really looked, and for the first time, I saw the truth in his eyes. This wasn't about him. This wasn't about the club. This wasn't about a random attack. This was about me. You were marked long before tonight, he murmured. I didn't realize it, until now. Marked. My voice shook. By who? I don't know. A beat. But someone has been waiting for you to cross my path. The knock came again. Not urgent. Almost amused. I said, open the door, Evan. I flinched. Adrian's eyes burned. Don't listen, he whispered. It's not me. My phone buzzed once more. This time no text. A voice note. Adrian's eyes widened. Don't play it, he said sharply. But my hand moved before my mind did. Fear, curiosity, disbelief colliding. The voice note played. It wasn't shouting. It wasn't threatening. It whispered one thing. I've been waiting for you since the day you were born. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor with a crack. Adrian grabbed my face with both hands, forcing my eyes to his. Evan, he said, voice steady despite everything. Look at me. Look only at me. I did. Dark eyes, warm breath, the scent of cedar and blood, his hands trembling slightly against my skin. You are not opening that door, he repeated softly. You are staying with me, right here. Do you understand? I nodded. He exhaled, a shaky, relieved sound that made something in my chest twist painfully. And then, the knocking stopped. Completely. The silence felt wrong. Empty. A slow scrape sounded outside. Not footsteps. Something softer, like fingers dragging along the doorframe. Then, a whisper that wasn't even pretending to be him anymore. Soon, Adrian grabbed me and pulled me into him. The movement made his wound flare. He hissed, but he didn't let go. His arms locked around me, warm, strong, desperate. I pressed my forehead into his chest, feeling his heartbeat, fast, steady, human, alive. Adrian, I breathed. He tightened his hold. I've got you, he whispered. I don't care who's out there. I don't care what they want. His voice cracked, just slightly. I'm not letting you go. I nodded into him. His hands slid to the back of my head, fingers threading gently through my hair, a gesture that felt too intimate, too protective, too much. But I didn't pull away, because something in him wasn't asking for permission. Something in him was afraid, not of death, not of the men outside, not of the voice, afraid of losing me. We stayed like that for what felt like minutes, or hours, or maybe forever. Two strangers breathing in sync, in a small room with danger pressed up against the door. Finally, he pulled back slightly, his thumbs brushing the sides of my face. Evan, he whispered, we're leaving at dawn, before whoever that is comes back. And until then, I breathed. His eyes softened. Until then, he said, I'm staying awake. And me, you're staying close. He leaned his forehead against mine, a touch so tender, so unexpected, so dangerously intimate that my chest tightened around a feeling I wasn't ready to name. His breath mingled with mine. Whatever happens next, he murmured, we face it together. The lamplight flickered. Outside, the night grew quiet, too quiet, and inside my small room, held in the arms of the most feared man in the city, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't scared of the voice outside the door. I was scared of how much I didn't want Adrian to let me go. The night didn't end. It just stretched too long, too quiet, too alive with things I couldn't see. Adrian didn't sleep, not even for a second. He sat beside the door with his back against the wall, one knee raised, one arm resting across it. He didn't blink much, didn't fidget, didn't breathe deeply. He watched the floor like he was expecting it to move. Once or twice, his eyes drifted to me, sitting on the bed with my knees pulled to my chest, and something in them softened. Not much, just enough for me to feel it. At some point, my head dropped forward, and I started to doze. He didn't say anything. He just shifted closer without sound, placing a hand on my knee. Warm, grounding, present. I didn't even realize I'd fallen asleep until he whispered my name. Evan. My eyes snapped open. The room was washed in the early gray of dawn. That moment the city looks like it's made of secrets and fog. A call to prayer echoed faintly from somewhere distant, mixing with the metallic cry of a Matatu engine starting 3 streets over. Adrian stood now, not leaning on the wall but on the strength of sheer stubbornness. His shirt was wrinkled, dried blood clinging stiff on one side. His hair looked slightly disheveled from hours without rest, but his eyes, they were alive, dark, sharp, and focused entirely on me. "It's time," he said. The room felt suddenly smaller, colder. "Is it safe outside?" I whispered. "No." A pause. "But safer than staying here." I swallowed. "Do you think they're gone?" "Whoever was here last night," he said, "didn't leave because they were done. They left because they wanted time." "For what?" He looked at me then, the truth heavy behind his eyes. "To prepare for whatever comes next." A knot tightened in my stomach. He stepped toward me, slow but steady, moving like a man whose body no longer felt pain out of necessity. "Get dressed," he said gently. "We're leaving now." I stood, legs shaky, and grabbed a hoodie from the chair. He turned away to give me privacy, which surprised me. Men like him didn't usually concern themselves with boundaries. When I was done, he turned back. "Evan," he said quietly. "Yeah? Your phone." I looked at it on the floor where I'd dropped it after the voice note. The screen was cracked, faintly glowing with battery life. "Leave it," Adrian said. I blinked. "Why?" "Because whoever messaged you last night used your number to track you. If we take that with us, they'll know every step we make." I hesitated. "Evan," his voice softened, "I'm not asking to control you. I'm asking to keep you alive." I swallowed hard and nodded. We headed toward the door, the same door someone had whispered through last night, the same door that had nearly fooled me with a voice that wasn't his. When I reached for the lock, Adrian grabbed my wrist. He didn't speak, just looked at me, long enough that my breath caught. "I go first," he said. He opened the door slowly, carefully, revealing only the narrow corridor beyond. No one was there. No shadow, no figure, no lingering presence. But the hall looked wrong. Something scratched the paint on the opposite wall. 3 long marks, deep, clean, dragged downward. I froze. "What?" "Don't look," he said sharply. "Just stay behind me." He guided me down the stairs, his hand on the back of my arm, protective without being forceful. We passed the neighbor's door, the old lady on the 3rd floor, the boy who always slept by the railings because he fought too much with his stepfather. All silent, all asleep, none aware of what had stood outside my room. Outside, the dawn light hit Adrian's face, illuminating the lines of exhaustion and the tension in his jaw. He looked less like a crime lord and more like a man carrying too many ghosts. "I parked 2 streets away," he said. "Keep your head down." I nodded and followed him through the quiet, early morning streets, passing vendors, setting out crates of oranges, women sweeping storefronts, stray dogs watching us like they'd seen everything before. But something felt off. People were fewer than usual, too few, as if the city itself had stepped aside to make space for whatever hunted us. When we reached the alley where his car was parked, he slowed, his eyes narrowed. "What's wrong?" I whispered. He raised a hand behind him, signaling me to stay still. His car sat in the half-light, a sleek black sedan with tinted windows. Nothing looked unusual. No broken glass, no sign of tampering. But then I saw it. A small strip of white paper tucked under the windshield wiper. Adrian approached slowly, hand ready near his jacket, probably reaching for a gun he no longer had. He plucked the paper free, unfolded it, stared for 2 seconds, and his entire body went still. "What is it?" I breathed. He didn't answer. Not immediately. He turned the paper toward me. On it was a single sentence. "You can't protect what already belongs to me." My blood went cold. "Adrian, what does that mean?" His jaw clenched. "It means," he said slowly, "whoever is after you thinks they have a claim." "A claim? On me? Why?" He crumpled the paper in his fist. "Not here," he said. "We need to leave." He opened the passenger door for me and ushered me inside. But as he walked around to the driver's side, something happened. A shadow detached itself from a wall across the street. Not a person. Not quite. Too still. Too tall. Too silent. I opened my mouth to call out, but the shadow moved first. Not toward me. Toward him. "Adrian," I shouted. He spun just in time, one arm coming up to shield his already wounded side. The shadow flickered, like light bending, and then melted back into the alley. Gone. But it left something behind. A whisper so soft I might have imagined it. "He's mine." Adrian's face drained of color. He got into the car without a word, slammed the door, started the engine, and pulled away fast. Too fast. Tires screeching on wet pavement. Adrian, what the hell was that? Who is he supposed to be? Why are they calling me theirs? He said nothing. He just drove, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. His jaw clenched so tight the muscle near his ear twitched. Adrian, I said again, voice cracking now. Tell me what's going on. Finally he spoke, softly, brokenly, as if admitting something he never wanted to say aloud. You weren't marked because of me, he said. You weren't followed because of me. He swallowed hard. You were chosen long before I met you. My breath caught. Chosen by who? His eyes flicked toward me, not with fear, but something worse, recognition. You're not caught in my world, Evan, he murmured. You're caught in your own. My chest constricted. I don't understand. He stared straight ahead, the dawn light washing him in pale gold. You were marked, he said, since the day you were born. A tremor raced through my body. Marked for what? Adrian's fingers loosened on the wheel. His voice dropped to something raw and almost tender. For someone who believes you belong to him. Silence filled the car, heavy, thick, full of a truth he hadn't finished saying. And who is that? I whispered. Adrian exhaled, a sound full of regret. I don't know, he said, but whoever he is. He glanced at me, eyes burning with something fierce. He's coming. My heartbeat slipped. My chest tightened. My breath vanished. And so am I, Adrian whispered. He reached across the console, fingers brushing mine, a touch too soft for a man like him. I don't care who he is, he said. I'm not giving you up. The sun broke the horizon. The city awoke, and without knowing how or when it happened, I realized something terrifying and beautiful. I wasn't afraid of what hunted me. I was afraid of what I was starting to feel for the man willing to fight it.